When it comes to subsidies for renewable energy, I just roll my eyes. There are so many of them, implicit and explicit subsidies, that are either added to your electricity bill or that you pay in taxes. It's hard to take account of them. I mean, there's the large-scale generation certificates, or LGCs. These are certificates that are given to renewable energy generators as a sort of bonus, really, for generating electricity. They get paid for the electricity, but this comes on top. They're worth about $44 at the moment on the market, and they can sell these to the energy retailers and make a handy profit. Currently, the market in the last year, I think, was worth about $1.46 billion. All that gets added to your electricity bill. But that's only the start of it. I mean, there's the Clean Energy Finance Corporation, the government's green bank, which lent about $30 billion of our money, or has lent about $30 billion of our money in special loans. There's ARENA, the Australian Renewable Energy Agency, which received around $1 billion in government grants in the last 3 years. The safeguard mechanism, that's all part of this whole thing. That's about $906 million. The Clean Energy Regulator, which takes about $750 million in government money every year. And then there are the various state schemes at over $14 billion. The Capacity Investment Scheme, $10.38 billion. It's a lot of money. It's hard to even take it in. I'm grateful to Alexandra Nicol, a former advisor to the two senators from Western Australia, for pulling together some of those figures. And she joins me on the line now from Western Australia. Alexandra, welcome to Reality Bites.
Thank you, Nick.
Now, you calculated a figure for what that works out per household in either energy bills or taxes. How much is it, subsidies, in your estimate?
Yeah, it's absolutely outrageous. It's $1,500 per household per year. So if you take the total of $15.6 billion per year that goes to wind turbines as a subsidy and divide that by 10.3 million households, you get $1,500 per household per year. And that isn't paid by taxpayers, that's paid by every household. So every pensioner, school, hospital, you name it, we're paying it.
So that makes a mockery of the idea renewable energy is cheap, doesn't it?
It's absolutely outrageous. That's not including any of the costs of construction. I believe the current cost of construction is $3 million per megawatt. But just in subsidy alone, that's a huge amount of money every year, $15.6 billion. And then the biggest problem that we have with that is we're not actually achieving what they're supposed to achieve. We're not actually achieving a reduction in emissions in the electricity grid.
No, well, let's go through why that is. Number one, of course, is the fact that these things don't run for 24 hours a day. They're only running for maybe 25% of the time, in some cases at best. And then there's the building of the turbines themselves, of course, and they use a considerable amount of carbon, don't they, in constructing them. Tell me about that side of things.
Yeah, there is a lot of environmental input and problems with the manufacturing process. The blades, for example, are made with a carbon fibre that's a very small particle, and once those blades break up, that goes into the atmosphere. I don't remember off the top of my head what the amount of concrete tonnage is that goes into the base of the tower, but the cost of construction and the environmental destruction caused in that construction is quite significant. But what you touched on there was the capacity factor of wind turbines. It's currently between 27 and 29% in Australia, and that's basically 2 days a week. So for the other 5 days a week, they go missing, and that's where it gets very hard to balance the grid. Wind, unfortunately, as a source, is very unreliable, and that creates major problems. When wind comes onto the grid, it has to be balanced by baseload power.
Yeah, which means extra expense. Now, you've got involved in this more recently because you're concerned about the offshore wind development off Bunbury in Western Australia. Tell me about that. How big is it, and what will the implications of that be?
Yeah, so what Copenhagen Energy is trying to do is install a wind farm offshore in Geograph Bay, which is off our beautiful coastline in Western Australia. And it will cover 1 million acres of ocean and have 1,333 turbines. And the destruction that it will cause in our beautiful ocean is just, it's really unfathomable. It's right in the middle of a marine nursery and a whale migration route. Our oceans over here in Western Australia are absolutely beautiful. Really, they're second to none in the world. And to be under the threat of such significant destruction is actually, it's really quite an intense situation. So we're rallying the troops as much as we can to protect our beautiful marine environment and protect all those beautiful whales that are going through um, and having their babies. So, yeah, to see any of that begin would just be quite a disaster. And once the damage is done, it would never recover.
Tell me how big the opposition to this is. I gather the Bunbury mayor is strongly opposed to it, and other people in the community. How big a concern is it down there in the community?
It's an enormous concern. We've got a lot of people that really care about the ocean environment. So you've got all of your fishing community down there, your surfers, and people that just in general enjoy the ocean and really appreciate our beautiful marine animals. There's a lot of support for, because they're putting it in the middle of a whale migration path, and some of those whales are like fairly endangered. There's a lot of community support for being able to really protect the area from this kind of environmental destruction. We've got a
Well, we
great
know, don't we, from the
team.
United States. Go ahead.
We've got a great team called Save Our Beloved Geograph Bay. And there's some wonderful people that are all rallying together, and we're putting up the best fight that we can. Copenhagen Energy really doesn't know how beautiful our ocean environment is and really couldn't give a stuff about protecting it or about, looking after our beautiful marine environment and our fishing interests.
Now, these are foreign companies, did you say, Copenhagen Energy? The profits go offshore, don't they? We don't actually benefit from any of that in Australia. It's going to companies that in distant jurisdictions who have no investment in Australia apart from somewhere to make a quick buck.
You're exactly right. Most wind farms are owned by $2 shell companies that are foreign owned. What's of extreme concern with the Western Australian coastline is that if these turbines were allowed to go ahead, I don't think anyone is thinking about the defence situation, i.e., we have a foreign company that is building infrastructure in our ocean that will destabilise the grid and stop the submarine radar from working. I personally can't understand why everyone isn't jumping up and down about this.
That's right. And look, I mean, why is the Western Australian government so desperate as to do this? I mean, it's very expensive to build offshore wind, more expensive than nuclear, I'm told. It takes a long time. It's very unlikely to get any of this installed before 2030 at the very earliest. What's driving the West Australian government to embark on a plan like this?
I really can't answer that question, because what government in their right mind would be selling off our beautiful marine environment and allowing a foreign company to destabilise the grid? Because that is what wind turbines do. They destabilise our electricity grid.
What do you think your chances are of stopping this thing?
We're going to stop it because the destruction of building any offshore wind turbines on our beautiful coastline will be forever. So we're going to put up the best fight that we can. Me and the fabulous team from Save Our Beloved Geograph Bay are on the right side of history, and I really hope that people start to wake up and listen to what's going on around them.
Now, you're getting organised, obviously. If people want to find out more, where's the best place for them to go for information on this?
Please go to the Save Our Beloved Geograph Bay page on Facebook. Martine Shepherd and Kyle Trelaw are running that. They're doing a fantastic job. And we also have a federal petition against offshore wind farms. So that's for everywhere in Australia. If people could please go online and sign that federal petition, that would be fantastic.
Alexandra, thank you for the work that you're putting in to save that beautiful part of Australia. It is lovely coastline. I was there a couple of years ago, and I tell you, it is one of the most beautiful parts of Australia. And if you haven't been there, people should get there. Thank you very much for joining us here on Reality Bites.
Thanks so much, Nick.